Hello, fellow cinephiles, and welcome to another episode of Steve Reviews. I am your host, Steve Sullivan. I am a writer and critic for FilmMonthly.com. As I've noted before, I am a huge fan of horror movies, particularly 70s and 80s. The originals in the series are usually the best or close to the best. Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Hellraiser. The original Hellraiser film in 1987 is a landmark in horror cinema and is still considered to be a classic to this day. Now, along the way, there have been many sequels, most of which went straight to home media, including the most recent entry, 2018's Hellraiser Judgment. Being someone who feels the need to watch all the movies in these horror series, I thought, I'll check it out. The first thing that I noticed that was probably should have been a check mark as to what was going to happen is it's not the original actor playing Pinhead. Doug Bradley, who played him for the majority of the movies, was not asked back for the last two, including Judgment. The gentleman that we do have playing him, Paul T. Taylor, if he hadn't walked into an iconic role from an actor who portrayed it brilliantly, I would guess he would be fine. But there's just something about Bradley's cadence and his look that made Pinhead an iconic character. Because initially, even in the script, that the lead Cenobite is just the lead Cenobite. It has no name. But the name Pinhead stuck, and it made Doug Bradley an icon. So I thought, even though Bradley is not in the Pinhead, role this time around, it's still part of the Hellraiser series. I own the majority of the rest of them. I might as well check it out. And after the first 12 minutes, I was so tempted to shut the thing off and not finish watching it. The opening 12 minutes of the film is nothing more than torture porn. It's unnecessary. It's over the top, violent, disgusting, nudity for the sake of nudity, just ridiculous. And I thought, if this is the way the rest of the movie's going to be, then why am I even here? But I fought back the urge and decided, you know what, I'm going to continue to watch. So I continued to watch the rest of the movie, and after finishing it, I wish I would have stopped watching it after the first 12 minutes. The movie then seemed to turn into a Law and Order / police procedural with a little more over-the-top violence and gore. Did that make it any good at all? Oh no. The people behind the production, I think, just thought that they needed to go above and beyond to hopefully catch the attention of people, which seems like it's a bit unnecessary because it's Hellraiser. People know Hellraiser. They know Pinhead. They know the series. You don't need to do anything else to garner attention for it. All you have to say is, hey, look, here's a Hellraiser movie. You don't need to get super graphic or super kinky, sexual, or disgusting. But if you want to do something a little different with it, fine, I understand. But the police procedural route? What? Not only that, but it also is way over preachy. It is just, it's throwing Bible at you left and right. And part of the storyline of this movie is that God has sent one of his angels to stop these Cenobites from taking the soul of a serial killer. Basically, God wants the angel to allow the killer to continue to kill off bad people. So, in essence, the film is saying that it's okay to kill someone else if they're a bad person. And oh boy, does that bring up a lot of talk. People are going to look at that in a number of ways. I think it's terrible that you're using a Hellraiser movie, especially if you're political and you're using Hellraiser to sell your politics. It seems like the wrong medium, the wrong film series to go with to try and say, this is my belief. If you want to do that, that's what Twitter's for. Go on Twitter and preach your beliefs. Do not throw it into your movie, especially a genre series movie like Hellraiser. So this attractive blonde British angel gets in a battle of wits and physicality with Pinhead over whether or not they should allow a serial killer. And it's almost like they slightly portray Pinhead as the hero, I guess. I mean, the fact that he wants to take this man's soul, but an angel is saying, no, wait, let him continue to kill the bad people so we don't have to worry about them. Overall, the overt preachiness, the graphic violence and sexuality, and the poor storytelling with actors that you feel no comfort level with, no attachment toward, no sympathy for. This is one of the worst in the series. And that's saying a lot because quite a few of the straight-to-home media release are not good at all. And to be completely blunt, the only two that I look at, that I still continue to watch on a regular basis are the original and Hellraiser 3. Those two are actually great watches. Hellraiser 2 is a nightmare. It is a complete nightmare. 3 is it still has its versions of sexuality and violence, but it also I think it has Pinhead at his finest. Because I mean, you get the original movie, you get the introduction to Pinhead. In part 3, you really see Pinhead start to come alive, if you will. And then, of course, the fourth movie, they go to space. So right there, I think you know that the series has all but jumped the shark, and it shouldn't be a surprise that after part 4, they no longer produce the movies to go into the theaters. So, but we jump back to 2018 and Hellraiser Judgment, and it is awful. It is just a horrendous piece of movie making by people who I can't imagine that they are given much of a budget. I mean, it's from Dimension Films, and if there was a budget, I don't know where it went. It certainly wasn't for the script. I don't believe it was for the special effects. I know it wasn't for the acting. And speaking of the acting, what I was hoping for to at least salvage it just a tad is at the beginning I saw the name Heather Langenkamp. Now, to those of you who know horror, you know Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street. So when I saw her name, I was like, oh good, I like Heather Langenkamp, especially, you know, in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. She was in the movie for less than 5 minutes, but yet got one of the top bill names. So they're using her name and former, 15 minutes to try to sell this piece of crap. I hate that. I always hate it whenever a movie does that. And in this case in particular, especially since as I was watching it, it was just boring and it was dumb. And, if I want to be preached to, I won't go to Hellraiser, I'll go to a church. So just overall, avoid this movie unless you just have that sense about you where, the curiosity factor is too strong and you just feel the absolute need. It's like, I've seen all the other Hellraisers, I need to see this one. That's the only reason why I would even have you watch this. If you're not familiar with the Hellraiser movies and you're thinking, I'll watch this as my first, please do not. You will get a negative connotation when it comes to the Hellraiser series as a whole. Start with the original, try making your way through 2, enjoy 3, and then see where it leads you from there. But if you know the Hellraiser series, you are not going to like this one. Hellraiser Judgment is not worth your time, not worth your friend's time, not worth your family's time. It's just not worth anybody's time. It is something that did not need to be made, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And I basically watched the thing to make sure that the rest of you did not have to. So that is my take on Hellraiser Judgment. Before I head off, of course, I want to give my usual shout outs here to Cadavercast. Now, Cadavercast is a podcast that is done by 6-year-old Alistair Burnham and his dad, Jeff. And it is a series of podcasts to help you direct your children toward horror movies that are friendly enough for a younger age. There's also some fun segments on there. There's episodes where Alistair tries to explain horror movies he's never seen based solely on a picture or two. And watching him try to describe movies such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Hellraiser, which, by the way, he hasn't seen either of those, and rightfully so, but still listening to his take on it is gold. You'll love it. It's so bring your children or listen to it yourself as an adult. You're going to enjoy it either way. So go check that out. Cadavercast on whatever podcast format you happen to subscribe to. And also, head on over to filmmonthly.com. You can check out some of my reviews and articles that I've written over the years, as well as take a look at some modern reviews done by a lot of very talented young men and women from across the country. So once again, that's filmmonthly.com. Also, speaking of podcasts, I'll take a look at the Quote Unquote Guilty. Check them out. Listen to them. It's a podcast done by Joe Ketchum, and he has guests on a regular basis. They talk about various topics, movies, etc., that are considered guilty pleasures. Well, guilty pleasures to some, but maybe just pleasures to others. So check it out. Go and find Quote Unquote Guilty on the Word Salad family of podcasting. You'll really enjoy it. They just celebrated their 100th episode, so there's lots to get caught up on if you're not familiar with them yet. And until we meet again, have a beautiful day and good journey.